President, please be seated. The court is in session. And today the chamber will hear the testimonies of 2 TCW 932. Greffier, Mr. Sakovati, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals at today's proceedings. Greffier, Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Nguyen Chia is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to testify today, that is 2 TCW 932, confirms that to his best knowledge, he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, that is Nguyen Chia and Khieu Samphan, or to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness took an oath before the Iron Club statute in the morning of 11 June 2015 and is waiting to be called by the chamber in the waiting room. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Sakovati. The chamber now decides on the request, but first the chamber would like to inform parties that this afternoon Judge Ayudra, the national judge, is absent because of his health. He is not able to be here, and after the deliberation among judges, the chamber decides to assign Judge Trumani to replace Judge Ayudra until he is back with us. The decision is made based on the Internal Rule 17.4 of the ECCC. The chamber now decides on the request by Nguyen Chia. The chamber has received a waiver from Nguyen Chia dated 12 of June 2015, which states that due to his health, there is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his rights to participate in and be present at the 12th of June 2015 hearing. He advised that his counsel advised him about the consequence of this waiver. Having seen the medical report of the Nguyen Chia by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 12th of June 2015, who knows that Nguyen Chia has a chronic back pain when he sits for long and recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nguyen Chia his request to follow today's proceeding remotely from the holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. Every technician are instructed to link the audio-visual system so that Nguyen Chia can participate remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Court officer, please usher the witness into the courtroom. President, good afternoon, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Witness, my name is Cao Lừa. President, thank you, Mr. Cao Lừa. When were you born? Answer, I was born on 15th of September 1951. President, thank you, Mr. Cao Lừa. Where were you born? Answer, I was born in Roniam village, Minjay sub-district, Sandan district, Kampong Thom province. Question, where are you living currently? My current address is in Jampal village, Minjay sub-district, Sandan district, Kampong Thom province. President, thank you. What is your occupation? Answer, I am a rice farmer. Question, what are your parents' names? Answer, my father's name is Cao Liang and my mother's name is Sao Son. President, what about your wife? What is her name? How many children do you have together? My wife's name is Sok Saret. We have 8 children together. President, thank you, Mr. Cao Lừa. The greffier made an oral report that to your best knowledge, none of your father, mother, ascendant children or descendant of brother, sister and in-law has no relations with the 2 accused or to any party of case 002. Is that correct? Answer, yes, that is correct. President, and also the chamber is informed that you have already taken an oath before you present in this courtroom. Is that true? Witness, yes, I have taken an oath already. President, thank you very much, Mr. Cao Lừa. The chamber would like to inform you of your rights and obligation as a witness. Your rights. As a witness, Mr. Cao Lừa, in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you. Rights against self-incrimination. Your obligation as a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you, as the chamber has just informed you of your rights as a witness. As a witness, you must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or parties pose to you. Mr. Cao Lừa, have you ever provided statement to the investigator of the OCIJ? If so, how many times have you given your statement? Answer, I have been interviewed, however, I do not recall when it happened. President, no problem, Mr. Kaolua. Before you are here, have you reviewed the statement you gave to the investigator of the ECCC already? Answer. I read it twice, but I could not recall everything in it. President, to your best knowledge, could you confirm whether the statement you have just read twice reflects what you stated at that time? Answer. Yes, it reflects what I have stated. President, thank you very much. In accordance with Internal Rule 91 bis of the ECCC, the floor is given first to the co-prosecutor to put questions before other parties. The combined time for the co-prosecutors and lead co-lawyers is 3 sessions for this witness. You may now proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, judges and counsel. Good afternoon, witness. I'm from the prosecution. I'll ask you a few questions about your experiences during the Khmer Rouge period. And of course, a lot happened during that time, but I'd like to concentrate particularly on your experiences at the Kampong Chhnang airfield, which you describe in your statement. I'd also like to discuss with you what happened to many members of Division 310, to which you belonged. But before we do that, I'd like to put some short questions to you as to your background and the context in which you experienced the Khmer Rouge period. Your Honour, these questions are largely derived from a DC CAM statement, which is about 50 pages. The E3 number is 5658. And I will just put these questions briefly and shortly, and if the ERN numbers are required, I can provide them before we get to the topic of Kampong Chhnang. Mr. Witness, you told investigators that on the 18th of September 1970, when you were 18 years old, you joined Pol Pot's revolution. Is that correct?
Witness, yes, that is correct.
Also, you told an interviewer from the Documentation Centre of DC CAM that in 1971 you got malaria and you briefly returned home to recuperate before returning to the front with Division 310, Battalion 317. And then you were armed and told to stand by in Kampong Tom, Kampong Spao area. Is that correct?
Answer. I would like to give my response as follows. In 1971, I got a malaria and I came back home, as you said.
Thank you. And then after you became well again, did you join Division 310, Battalion 317?
Answer: yes, I joined that unit.
And then, is it correct that in 1974 you were involved in fighting with Lon Nol troops, and at one point in 1974, on the 5th of December, you were promoted to Deputy Chairman of the battalion while you were in Rulos?
Answer: yes, that is true.
And is it also true that in 1975, when you were involved in fighting in Phnom Penh, you were hit in the leg and your leg broke, and then you had to go to hospital? Is that correct?
Answer: on the 1st of January, I was in the battlefield and I was hit in the leg. I was hospitalized at that time.
Thank you. And was that the 1st of January 1975?
Answer: it was on the 1st of January 1975.
Thank you. And then, were you sent to the K4 unit for recovery near the Calmet Hospital for that injury?
Answer: yes.
And how long were you in recovery for in K4?
Answer: I could not recall it.
Was it for a few weeks, or was it for some months or a year? Can you give us an estimate of the time frame?
Answer: from my estimate, it was about 3 months that I could recover.
And can you tell the court what the unit K4 was? What was its purpose? And what types of people became members or joined unit K4?
Answer: I would like to clarify it for the chamber. K4 was the unit for the handicapped. There were about 600 people in that unit.
And when you say handicapped, are you talking about people or soldiers that became injured and are recuperating, or are you talking about people that are permanently handicapped, have a problem with their arms or legs or something else on a permanent basis?
Answer: K4 was for the handicapped soldiers. and the handicapped soldiers were put in that K4 units.
And perhaps just one more question on this. What types of handicaps did you see in the K4 unit? What types of problems did people have?
Answer. In that K4 unit, as I stated, some had their legs and arms broken, and some were blind because of that injury. And as I stated, some soldiers were handicapped in leg and arms, or they were blind because of the injuries.
And your injury, the broken leg, was that a permanent injury? Did that stay with you throughout the Khmer Rouge period? Or did it mend and get better quite quickly?
Answer. I am permanently handicapped. I could walk, but I could not do any carrying work.
Thank you. And is it correct that in 1976 you were still a part of Unit K4 and you became a company chairman in that unit?
Answer. Yes, that is true.
And then sometime in 1976 you've stated that you were arrested and taken to Kamon Kop Sarau for tempering because you were a cadre from the North Zone. Is that correct?
Answer. When the members of regiment and division and some other units were arrested, I was sent to Kopsro for tampering.
And do you know why these other members from the North Zone were arrested? Did you know why back then?
Answer. As for the arrest, the senior people, I have no idea.
And then, did you tell the interviewer that you spoke to that during 1977 there was a purge of Division 310 superiors? They were arrested, and because of that you became the deputy chairman of the regiment in Unit K4. Is that correct?
Answer. After the purge of cadres, I was in charge temporarily of a battalion in Unit K4.
And you said that because of these arrests, you were sent to Kamon Kop Sarai for tempering. What did that mean?
Answer. I was sent to Kop Sarai into another unit. That unit was for people who were there to be tempered, and the unit number was 317.
And why were you tempered? You said there were arrests in the North Zone and arrests of other people, and because of that you were tempered. What was your relationship with people that were arrested, if anything?
Answer. The reason I was sent for tempering because I was accused of being in the enemy unit. I was accused of being an enemy at that time.
And were you an enemy to the Khmer Rouge, to the party?
Answer. I have no idea about this matter. I only knew that I was called for tempering. It was said that I was an old cadre.
And were you a member of the Communist Party of Kampuchea?
Answer. I was not the member of the Communist Party of Cambodia.
And you also told investigators and the interviewer that in 1977, after the arrests of North Zone leaders of Division 310, because of links with CIA, leaders from the Southwest Zone were put in place of the North Zone, and you were sent to Kampong Chnang airfield. Is that correct?
Answer. I was tempered in Khmer for 5 months, after which I was sent to Kampong Chnang airfield.
Thank you. I think you said in 1976 you were sent to Kamon Kop Sarai, and then you've also said to an interviewer that on the 15th of January 1978 you were sent to the Kampong Chnang airfield. The question I'm asking you is that you gave the date of the 15th of January 1978 to this interviewer from DC Cam, and I know it was 10 years ago, but why do you remember that you were sent to Kampong Chhnang on the 15th of January 1978?
On the 15th January 1978, I was assigned to work at the Kampong Chhnang airfield worksite.
And how are you able to remember that date specifically?
I remember it after I have read the date several times, and this is one of the dates that I cannot forget in my life.
Thank you. You said that you were sent to Kamon Kop Sarai for tempering. Is tempering punishment? Was it punishment?
Allow me to respond to your question in this regard. People who were sent to the location were being tampered. The bell was rang at 3 p.m. and we had to wake up and we had to start working early. We only have a short break during lunchtime, and then we had to continue working through the day, and at night time we had to continue working until 10 p.m.
So is it fair to say that when you were tempered you had to work a lot harder than everyone else?
In the regiment 317, all the soldiers in that regiment were being tampered.
And was that before you got to Kampong Chhnang airfield? The whole regiment was being tempered before you arrived?
Not the entire regiment was sent there. However, only some soldiers from this regiment were sent to Kampong Chhnang airport worksite, while other soldiers were sent from other units.
And just so that I'm clear, did you say that in 1977 you became the deputy chairman of the regiment of K4 because of the purges? Is that correct?
After they conducted the purge of cadres, I was appointed as a provisional deputy commander of battalion K4, not regiment K4.
Thank you. And you said that you arrived at Kampong Chhnang, was sent there on the 15th of January 1978. Did you stay at the Kampong Chhnang airport until the Vietnamese arrived in Phnom Penh? Did you stay there for the whole year?
I remained for a full year at Kampong Chnang, and I fled on the 7th January 1979.
Thank you. But, however, during that year, were you asked to do a course in Phnom Penh on land surveying? And then did you return to Kampong Chnang during that year?
While I was working at the Kampong Chnang airfield, they screened people to find those who were a bit more educated, so they could be sent for a training, and after the training they would be sent back to work at the Kampong Chnang airfield.
And is it correct that that training was for about 3 months?
Yes, it's correct. The training lasted for about 3 months.
And what were you trained to do?
During the 3-month period, I studied the technical aspect of terrain surveying.
And you said to the interviewer that you were at Kampong Chnang airfield for about 2 months after the 15th of January 1978, and then you returned to Phnom Penh to study for 3 months, and then you returned to the airfield for the remainder of that year until you fled on the 7th of January 1979. Is that an accurate account of what you did that year?
Yes, what I said at that time is an accurate account of what happened.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask you some questions about the numbers of people that were at the airfield, the conditions that you and they had to work under, and whether any of that arrest activity that you talked about that was occurring at Kamon Kop Sarai was occurring, but I'll ask you some questions about that in a minute. My question is, why were you selected to do that course when you were being tempered and punished?
I was being tempered at Kop Sarai, and I had to work despite my disability. I had to carry the sword, and sometimes I fell off and felt unconscious for a few times. Later on, I was sent to work at the Kampong Chnang airfield, and the work there was less intensive than the work at the Khmu near Kop Sarai, since I was instructed to pull grass from the land.
And who approached you to ask you or tell you to do the training in Phnom Penh? How did that come up?
At that time, I met Brother Han, who was a former soldier in arms with me while we were at the front battlefield. He then made a request for me to attend the training.
Thank you. I think you did very well in that course, is that correct? You were second in the class.
Yes, that is correct.
You said that, well, perhaps one last question on this topic. You said that you were a deputy battalion commander on a temporary basis for Unit K4. Did you still have that rank when you went to Kampong Chnang? Were you still viewed as a deputy commander or not?
While I was transferred to Kampong Chnang, every one of us from the unit was simply considered combatants. I was not considered a deputy commander anymore.
Were you allowed to carry a gun?
At the Kampong Chnang, none of us was allowed to carry any weapon.
And do you know why not?
I did not know the regulation at the work site. However, we were not allowed to have any weapon with us. The only thing that we had was a earth-carrying pole and earth-carrying basket.
If I can read to you what you said to the ECC investigator a number of years ago, and it's at E3467, ERN English 00205074, Khmer 00170620, and French 00205078. And this is what you said in response to this question. When they sent you for tempering in Kampong Chnang, what did they have you do? And you said, my unit had just 400 persons remaining at that time when they took us for tempering at Kampong Chnang. There were other units as well, like the 450th Division, but they did not let us meet. Initially, they had me pull grass on the airfield, working from 4 in the morning and until 11, and from 11:30 until 11 at night. At meetings, they said we had to be tempered because our leaders had been traitors. And if we were not tempered, then they would arrest us too. Ta Lavai from the northwest zone was the person in control at the airfield. At that location, I saw people die from overwork and starvation. Trucks came to arrest people every night, arresting about 20 each time. At meetings, they called out names for people to leave the meeting and to be arrested at once. Of my unit, only 14 remain alive. Is that a true account of what happened at Kampong Chhnang Airport for that year you were there, apart from your training?
Yes, that is the true account of what happened at the time.
You said that your unit was 400 when you went to the airfield, and then you said, of my unit, only 14 remained alive. Are you saying that 386 members of Unit K4 did not remain alive at the end of your time at Kampong Chhnang, or are you just referring to the present day?
President, witness, please hold on, and Counsel Kong Som On, you have the floor. Kong Som On, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to object the question by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor. In the statement by the witness, he mentioned that not all soldiers in his unit were sent to Kampong Chhnang, as other soldiers were sent from other units. So it has to be clarified whether his unit contained only 400 persons and they were all sent to Kampong Chhnang airfield.
Yes, I think that's a good clarification, Your Honour. Witness, when you went to the airfield, did all 400 from your unit go, or did some stay behind?
When we went to Kampong Chhnang, not all the soldiers from our unit went there, as some other soldiers were brought in from other units, and we went together there.
Thank you. About how many soldiers from your unit went to Kampong Chhnang with you?
I cannot recall how many soldiers from my unit went.
You said that of my unit, only 14 remained alive. Did you, of the people that you went with from Unit K4, did any of them disappear or were arrested during that year period?
While I were was at Kampong Chnang, there were successive arrests of those soldiers who were accused of being enemies.
When you say successive arrests, were they arrests from your unit, or were they arrests from other units that were working at the site as well?
Not only soldiers from my units were arrested, soldiers in other units were also arrested.
Were you allowed to leave the work site if you wanted to?
We were not allowed to walk freely here or there. We had to be stationed or stay put in one place.
Were you allowed to refuse to do the work?
At that time, we could not refuse to work. Even if we were sick, we had to work, otherwise we would be accused of being enemy. So we had to bear the work.
Did you get paid for the work?
No, of course you didn't get any wage from the work there, and you can forget about that as the food there was not even sufficient.
Did you get any days off to rest? Did you get holidays or a day off once a week or once a month or twice a week?
There was no Thursday or no Sunday or no weekends. We worked every single day of a month.
If you were so tired and you wanted to sleep in and not go to work that day, could you do that?
มันអាចធ្វើទៅបានទេដូចខ្ញុំ
Of course not. We could not do that. As I told you earlier, that if we did not go to work, we would be accused of being enemy. We would be accused of being or of pretending to be sick of a tremors or of tractors. That was the slogan they used at the time.
Just talking about the members of your unit, K4, you said that members had some sort of disability. Were any of those members allowed to undertake combat operations because of their poor health or their disability?
Please repeat your question.
Were the people in your unit, were they fit for combat operations?
the incapacitated soldiers were divided into two groups. For those who are combat competent, will be sent to fight. But I was in the second group that we were not combat competent, so we were sent to work at the airfield.
Did you wear a military uniform or other members in your unit?
Please repeat your question again, as I do not fully get it.
Did you wear a military uniform when you were at Kampong Chhnang?
In Kampong Chhnang airfield, we mostly wore black clothing.
And was that black clothing considered to be military uniform?
No, it was not a military uniform, but every one of us was instructed to wear black clothes. Only soldiers at the front battlefield wore military uniforms.
So you didn't wear a uniform, you didn't have a gun, you couldn't fight in combat. What made you a soldier at Kampong Chhnang airfield? Why do you say you were a soldier?
While I worked at the Kampong Chhnang airfield, we were given clothes to wear, but it was not a military uniform, it was black clothes.
Thank you. You talked about how much you had to work, and you said, and I'm just re-quoting, you were working from 4 in the morning until 11, and from 11:30 until 11 at night. At that location, you saw people die from overwork and starvation. When I read what you have to say, that means that at times you were working for 18 hours a day at the airfield. Is that correct?
As a soldier who was sent to be tempered there, that was the reality on the ground.
And perhaps when we answer some of these questions, I will sometimes ask you which time period. So you've said to the court that you were at Kampong Chhnang airfield for a couple of months, and then you went to Phnom Penh for 3 months, and then you came back for the last remaining 5 or 6 months. In terms of the working hours, did they stay the same from when you were at the airfield in the first 2 months or did they change after you got back from the training? Did it get harder? Did it get easier? Or did it stay the same?
Answer. I would like to inform the court that during that 2-month period of time, I was being tempered. And after I returned from that tempering unit, I was assigned to be in charge of measuring the land. So my work was a bit, less difficult.
So your status at the airfield improved because of the training that you received. Is that correct?
Answer. Yes. And when I went to work and to measure the land, usually they use a steam roller or soil compactors to assist the workers, so the work was less difficult.
Whilst you were there, and when you got back from your training and your status improved somewhat, did those conditions still apply to the working conditions, the hours that people had to work? Did they still apply to other people from your unit or other people that you saw?
Answer. I would like to inform the chamber that during that time I parted my friends and colleagues. They stayed in their respective units. They had regular working hours starting from 7 until 11 a.m. in the morning, and they resume work from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
So when you got back from the training and was at the airfield, did your hours improve? Did they change from 4 o'clock in the morning till late at night? Did you go to more regular hours, or did other people have more regular hours?
Different people had different working hours. I was transferred to the technicians unit, and for other colleagues, they were in different units, so I lost contact with all my colleagues.
Thank you. You said that you saw people die from overwork. Can you explain what you saw?
Answer. I would like to inform the chamber that some people who were carrying earth and who were digging the earth failed and became unconscious, and many of them died because of their work and because of the fact that they were too fatigued.
You also have said that people at the airfield died of starvation. would like to talk to you about how much food people were receiving. In that first 2 months, before you went to training, what did you get to eat?
Hộp bài
We had a meal, but it was not enough.
Do you remember the number of meals that you got before you went to your training?
Chăm bát from
Answer. I could not recall it.
When you say that people had insufficient food, did they have meat? Did they have vegetables? Did they have rice? Or did they have something different? Soup?
Answer. There was no soup, and we had a sour soup in the morning and in the afternoon. We had only little meat and fish.
Where did the workers at the airfield sleep? Particularly when you first arrived, where were they sleeping?
chăm bát xong
Answer. I did not know that village, the old village which people deserted it. I did not know where it was, but I knew that it was close to the airfield.
When you first arrived in January 1978, can you approximate how many people were working at the airfield?
chăm bát mình hiên pan
Answer. I could not give my estimate. I saw many people, and they had a different work to do.
If I put to you some numbers, 50, 500, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, do any of those numbers approximate to what you think might have been the number of workers at the airfield?
và tam cỡ này
Answer. From my estimates, there were about 500 workers there. President, it is now convenient time for a short break, and the chamber will take a break from now until 3 p.m. Court officers, please find a proper room for this witness during this short break, and please invite him back into the courtroom at 3 p.m. The court is now